You're building in one of the most shame-laden spaces, I imagine, particularly for men who are lacking community. So how do you design an experience that's anonymous and safe, but still feels like it's connective?
This was like the whole hypothesis early on when we were pitching investors. It's like we think we can create a space that brings real connection while also preserving the privacy, the confidentiality. What it looks like is like, you download the app, you come in and we ask some questions to get to know what type of group would be the best fit for somebody. So we actually are semi-intelligently grouping people together. Like a lot of guys who come into our app, their girlfriend or their spouse recently discovered their porn/sexual addiction and are feeling deeply hurt, right? And so there's a wild difference between that versus call it somebody else who's single and is like, this is impacting my productivity, my mental health, and I want to change.
When I hear you talk about Relay and what you're building, I suppose you're actually replicating in some way the idea that we could walk into a room and get coffee with a bunch of strangers and then all be very vulnerable together, and you could have these people that are accountable to you.
I mean, I feel like the muscle of vulnerability has been lost in society, or it's a skill, it's a muscle that's been underdeveloped. And I think being able to be vulnerable about our deepest pains, about the things that we are not proud of, is difficult, especially when we turn to maybe the people in our life who we're close to, but they've let us down, even in small ways. What are the subtle ways that you were missed, or you weren't fully seen as much as maybe the little boy or little girl within you needed? We've created a digital space where we can put you with a group. It's actually like a group of 8 people who are in a similar place where you can stay somewhat private and anonymous and kind of lower the barriers to taking that step, because it can be scary. But to be able to have real connection where people can see you and you can be vulnerable, which I think opens the doors to then actually find progress and change.
Why do you think porn fits this sort of paradox of loneliness and addiction?
We've worked with a lot of clinicians, therapists to build out, a methodology for how we help people through their addictions at scale through technology. Because traditionally, this all happens maybe in a therapist's office or at a treatment center for substance abuse. And so we're kind of pioneering a new model for how do we help people, break free of unwanted behavior. And kind of at the core of our approach is we believe that people don't really have a porn or an alcohol or, whatever problem. You actually have a pain problem. And what we mean by that is that all addiction really serves to help meet a need or solve a problem. So maybe I'll give an example. I think for me, porn was actually a solution to wanting to feel more accepted or to feel some comfort from bearing all these responsibilities in my life. From working so hard, it was a solution to help me feel more comfort. In our day and age, right? Disconnect and isolation has been widely propagated by, I think, social media, by the rise of the smartphone, which I know you guys have talked about a lot on this podcast. No one's situation is perfect. We all experience these fractures, these broken bonds with others. And our brain learns that that's uncomfortable and it wants to soothe and escape and comfort that. And so we find behavioral strategies, whatever that is. It could be TikTok, it could be porn, alcohol, whatever. Eating a bag of Cheetos, it's whatever helps me feel better. And our brain learns these associations. Now, I think porn is unique because sex is like very biologically foundational to our species. And also we could get into like sex versus intimacy. Are they the same? Are they different? The emotional bond, the relational connection that sexuality brings. And so what has pornography done? It's really a bid for connection, a bid to want to connect, to feel seen, to feel safe. But it's a false promise because it's with a screen.
Thanks for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a follow. We'll see you next time.